Good afternoon, Coach.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank you for joining us here. The first question today is from Bob Schron for you.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, Coach.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Coach. Two questions. Coach, I know you're so much in preparedness and mindset. This first question, taking into account everything about the pandemic, but how do you prepare differently with the 72 game season and the East having so many seat changes? Drew in Milwaukee, Tibbs in New York, Russell in Washington, etc. That's the first question. Then the second question, was there a turning point in Grant's development that, it seemed like you trusted him as a key player in the bubble playoffs? Thank you.
Grant's a good player. Obviously, I thought he did a good job of impacting winning at different times throughout the season last year. And certainly think we'll count on him to do that again. I think that I get a kick out of some of the talk about like all the different things that guys had a chance to do to improve in the offseason. We only were off for like 50 days. So by the time you got rest and by the time you got rev back up and got back into a rhythm of things, you're adding a few things, but it was more about just catching your legs and then getting ready for us with how long we played. That said, I think he probably went back to work and did a good job of that. And, we need him to make shots when he's spacing behind the three. We need him to be a ball mover, be a facilitator, and be able to guard as many positions as possible. With regard to prepping for training camp, I think you're taking everything into account. You're taking the 72-game season into account. You're taking the density of schedule into account. You're taking the, front-loaded aspect of the schedule. You're taking the fact that you just got done with a shorter break than usual into account. So I think you're taking it all and trying to balance it the best you can and, doing everything that you can to, be ready to play on December 23rd.
Art Murphy's next, Coach.
Hi, Brad. Romeo's had a bit of tough luck since he's come into the league, obviously. And this being such an unusual season, including the possibility you're not going to have a G League season, how much more of a challenge is it to bring him back when he's ready to come back?
Yeah, that's a good question because he will, obviously he will not have played any 5-on-5 until, he's still a ways away from that, let alone 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 and different progression steps you usually take after, in the midst of or the end of a long rehab plan. So, I think we go into the season looking at it from the standpoint that, Romeo will be an addition mid-season to our team. We're doing everything we can to keep him working from the weights to the different film and video to, solely working on his left hand. That gets old. And I think one of the great challenges that I think he'll do well with is maintaining the right mindset through all of the, mundane work. And that's one of the challenges I think with long rehabs is that guys get into a rut very easily. And so he and Joe Mazzulla work together. They have a great relationship. Joe does a good job keeping things fresh. And that'll be a real challenge over the next couple months as he goes through that. And then once he's ready, we'll, see where he fits in with the team we have.
John Corrales is next.
Hey, Brad. To that end, NBA history is full of guys with NBA level talent and circumstances kind of derail where their careers go. How do you prevent something like that from happening to a guy like Romeo Langford, who has the talent, but now injuries kind of put him behind where you guys are with a team full of, high-end talent?
Well, I think Romeo is going to be an NBA player for a long time. I don't think there's any question about that. He's got a great feel. He's got a great, athleticism. He knows the game. He works at the game. He's a very good worker. So I think about it more in terms of he's just missing half of his second season or whatever it is, and I think that that's hard when you already went through injuries as a rookie, and took he pulled his hamstring a minute into the stint versus Miami, and so like that's frustrating. But as far as big picture, long term, I would venture to guess that he's going to have a long career based on who he is, his work ethic, and his ability. Now, that said, the best ability is availability, and but at the same time, he's still a young guy, and a lot of these have been freak injuries and things that he'll get. Hopefully, he'll use all his bad luck now and have a great healthy career after this.
Brian, Rob?
Hey, Brad. As far as your starting lineup goes, you obviously are in a tough spot with Kemba out to start, and a big hole to fill with Gordon. How much of this camp for you is just kind of evaluating, different directions you can go with filling those two spots, or do you have a pretty good sense already in terms of what you want to do with those spots?
We're very much in evaluation phase, Brian, and and I know it's a question that we have to ask, and I know it's something everybody talks about, but starting is so often inconsequential to what happens throughout the whole game. I think starting the second half probably has an even bigger impact, but I just, unfortunately, that's such a big talking point, and it's been made into such a big deal by everyone, where I think that what we're trying to do is just find how it best fits together. So obviously the guys that are most impactful to winning will play the most. Whether that means they're starting or not, I don't know.
Last question, Coach, is from Bobby Manning.
Hey, Brad, with the short off season and then, the 4 months that followed the NBA shutdown there, how much better can you expect some of the younger players to come in given the, lack of off-season time? Or do you think that the extended playoff run that you guys had would be more beneficial than, off-season workouts?
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about the playoffs. Listen, I think when you compare the experience that we got versus some other teams that didn't play as long, or some other teams that, had longer off seasons, that, that emotional test of going through a long playoff run, the physical test, having to prepare for the same team, 4 times, 7 times, 6 times, throughout that playoff run, there's nothing that replaces that experience. But when you talk about off season and guys working on their own individual games, I mean, our guys were working super hard in the bubble, daily. We've talked about it. There wasn't much else to do. And so I think that they really took advantage of the gym time. And several of our guys right after the season, I think, were, some of our hardest workers, some of the guys that are in there the very most, were like, I have to get away from basketball. Right. And I think that took place. But I think everybody got back at it at the right pace. And I think we're still in pace mode a little bit, just understanding that we better be ready quickly. Right. And so there's such a fine line and a balance, and it is a unique experience. But to answer your question, it's what I said earlier, like guys didn't have a chance to do the normal off-season routine where they are ramped up individually and then even as a group for training camp. Because, like Aaron Nesmith hadn't played a 5-on-5 game since January till his first practice. And everybody's asking me if he's going to be in the rotation or not. Man, he was just trying to get up and down the court. Like, there's so much growth that we all have to go through. We're just on an expedited timeline here.
Thank you very much, Coach.